Hi, everyone. So welcome to our little talk today. We will be awaiting the arrival of our guest, who's just hiding behind the corners. You can see him right there, but it's someone that needs no introduction at all. I see some people waving already. It's our friend Fabrizio Buonamassa, who is the Product Creation Executive Director at Bulgari. And I think we all know his work exceptionally well, but we'll wait for him to come on stage to tell us a bit more about that. So let's everyone give him a big hand of applause.
Thank you. Ciao, Susan.
Now, I mean, if we're all sitting here, I think it's because we understand a bit about what you do and what you've brought to, well, Bulgari, first of all, but also to watchmaking in general. The topic of today is the legacy tension, which is a bit of a provocative title, because I think we all understand that, the subtitle beneath it, the art and risk of modernizing the familiar. Now, of course, if we all know a bit about Bulgari fine watchmaking, we can already identify some collections immediately that this sort of description would apply to. But before we dive into all that, Fabrizio, I'd like you to tell us a bit about, we know what you do now, we know what you represent and who you are to us today, but tell us where you came from, a bit about your background, your design, training, inspirations, what are some of the milestones that you would consider are among your best in your professional career with Bulgari?
Ciao a tutti, hello to everybody. Thank you, Suzanne, for your kind introduction. It's a great pleasure to be here, first of all, as usual. I used to say that I started my career when I was a child. I started to make my first sketches when I was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And still today is the most interesting and is the most exciting part of my job. You have to be curious. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to think out of the box, go out from the borders, and even be able to interpret things in a different way, because otherwise, we are in love with our drawings, with our sketches, with our watches, and all these kind of things are our babies. The problem, if you are not curious, if you don't think in a different way, you start to draw each time the same things. Mm-hmm. I started my career in the automotive industry because it was when I started making sketches, the first things was look at the comics. But I was not interested about the story, was interested just about the drawings. And after, my father works at the time in the automotive industry, so I start to see books about cars. Mm-hmm. And I see, what is this beautiful object? Honestly, I was passionate, and still today, about the proportions, the shapes, the details, a bit less about the performance and these kind of things. And after I discovered the watches.
Of course, growing up in Italy, there was huge culture around car design and appreciation.
Yes, this is part of, because I love objects, not just cars. And after I discovered the watches, and I start to ask to my father, to my uncles, I would like to have a watch on the wrist. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, maybe it was cars and watches, mechanical things. So I start to appreciate watches. Mm-hmm. I started my career in the automotive industry in Fiat Group. It was a different moment for the automotive industry, often in Italy. It was different. It was the beginning of the difficult part. So in a certain moment I say, okay, but I don't want to spend my entire life 40 people around the table discussing about a gasket that have to turn around the door. Maybe there are something that is more interesting. I love watches and I tried. I see a picture, an advertising campaign of the aluminum on a magazine at the Fiat Centro Stile. And that time you have the telephone, you have to put the coin inside. I see a small number on the top of the page, and I called this number. It was a call center. And I asked, do you have a design center? Yes, but I have to give you the number of the headquarters. So I called the headquarters. Yes, we have the design center. This is the address. I sent some sketches, and now I'm here. Long story short.
I feel like that's a very, very long story and a very, very short version of it, omitting some crucial details, however. But like you were talking about sketching, and for those of you, I'm sure a lot of people in this room already follow Fabrizio on Instagram, but if you don't already, I encourage you absolutely to do so, because he does share a lot of his own personal sketching moments, and it's how you kind of get like a little insight into how you think creatively, how you externalize your creative process, how you think about design, the aspects that you choose to focus on, so on and so forth. Now, now that we've described a bit about how you arrived at Bulgari, let's talk about the brand environment itself. I think we all know that the design environment at Bulgari Fine Watchmaking is quite different from the other brands. We can say this. There's the Roman identity of the brand, which of course sets it apart and brings its own set of inspirations like historical design, etc. There's also the fact that Bulgari has a reputation for audacity, which I think, imagine for you, must be very, very liberating as a designer or product creation as well. From your point of view, what are some other reasons that could perhaps give Bulgari designs their unique character in relative to the rest of the market?
But for sure, the Origins is a jewel maker still today. Is one of the most important jewel maker that is able to make timepieces in a different way. I joined the company more than 20 years ago. At the beginning of this journey of the verticalization, we start to both different manufacturing side, but it was very important for the beginning to be different because our story is different.
Yes, of course.
Still today, Bulgari is a contemporary brand from the origin, from Sotirio, from Giorgio Costantino. The idea was to make jewelry in a different way. It was very popular, it was very famous at the beginning of this journey, the French jeweler. And they tried to make exactly the thing in the opposite way. The French jeweler play with diamonds, and the Bulgari family start to play with cabochon cut and colored gemstones. And step by step, they create their own identity, even thanks to Gianni Bulgari that create the identity of the brand. I'm still working on the Gianni Bulgari creation today. And honestly, I think that the roots of the brand are different. The DNA of the brand is completely different from the other brand. If I have to think of the watchmaking industry, a lot of brand for me, my brain work a lot with images. And I always wear something that is almost a square. Sometimes a square with the round edges. If I think at the shape of Bulgari is the shape of something that is totally different, with full of different shapes together, I think this is the most important things. Today we are an incredible manufacturing site. We are 3 manufacturing sites in Switzerland, Neuchâtel, Les Sentiers, Sagny-Léger. But still today, for me, it's very important when we say we are a watchmaker. Yes, but we are the watchmaker in the production point of view. But we are a jewel maker, and we create design from a project point of view, from a different point of view. Because if we start to say that we are watchmaker, I think that we miss a lot of things that we already have as a brand that thinks in a different way. So when you start to say we are a watchmaker, you start to close a lot of things that could be very interesting.
That's true.
I think that one of the uniqueness of this brand you can see in the Serpenti. Still today, for us, it's difficult to say if we are talking about a timepiece or jewelry piece.
Yes.
It's absolutely a Bulgari product. Today, with our piccolissimo movement, with our automatic movement that we produce in our facilities, is still a piece of jewelry, but with an amazing content as a watchmaker. This is the perfect blend, and I love to stress this concept during each single meeting in Neuchâtel. That's why a lot of people are not...
No, but it's interesting they kind of bring in now, like, you know, you started off obviously from a really strongly more focused on design, but then you also had to go into like the deeper sort of strategy side of it, the direction, product creation, should we say. And you talked about differentiation. We've heard a lot about how Bulgari is different in a fundamental way and also in the process way. But I think finally there are also some tension, coming back to the title of our talk, there is this tension between being true to your identity as being different, but also having to remain within certain horological conventions, because a watch has to have some things you can't play with. So,
but this is the point. The tension is the point. We must make the things like a watchmaker when we talk about the movement and we talk about constraints and technical constraints. But for all the rest, we have to think in a different way. So the tension is exactly like that. We have to play with our archive, but we have to be able to introduce each time a different way to talk about the brand. Today we have an amazing limited edition that we made with Matar. For us, the Octo Finissimo is a blank canvas from the beginning. So now you see an Arabic inscription that turns around your wrist, not just the dial. The dial for us and for me, it's not enough anymore when we talk about limited edition. With the Octo Finissimo and with our way of thinking, we have amazing opportunity to tell you things and story in a different way. The tension is the right word, because the archive could be an amazing tool, but could be very heavy. If you look just at the archive, you design each time the same things. But if you look just outside, you make something that is not consistent with your heritage. So at the end, as a designer, more than 50 years old, almost 50 years of career.
Way. Who would believe that? No one.
This is, I think, with the experience, this is the real secret. Play with this, with a lot of elements to create something that doesn't exist, but at the same time is absolutely consistent with the brand.
I love that you brought up this model with the decoration on the bracelet as well, because, and would you name this specifically as something that comes from the experience in the jewelry side of things? Because for the rest of the watch industry, for the rest of the watch brands, a bracelet is a bracelet. You don't necessarily think of it as part of the canvas. But in fact, coming from a different kind of domain, jewelry, where everything is important, everything is a canvas for expression, and for artistry, is that
for sure, it's a more three-dimensional object. When you have a necklace, you have to design not just the central part, but even the things that are behind. You have to design the back. So when we talk about not just a dial, maybe in our DNA, in our genes, we have this kind of attitude. So I think that for us, for me, it's almost natural, this kind of approach.
You've given us already like a little peek into the product creation room at Bulgari. I want to drill a bit deeper into that. So we know that Bulgari has, collections with very strong historical legacies, like the Serpenti, as you mentioned, like the Bulgari, which I think people should remember more. It's still a very, very strong pillar of the brand. You also have collections like the Octo, which are relatively new for the brand, but they come with very strong historical associations already. So balancing that audacity and how this is expressed in collections with very strong visual identities already. Tell us a bit more about what's going on behind the scenes in the creation room. How do you have that discourse in order to decide which elements have to remain and which ones you can play with without too much disrupting how the perception is in the market, how it will be received, identity, history, and also...
Let me say that today, if you see our lineup, we have Bulgari, we have the aluminum execution, we have the Octo, we have Lucea, we have so many Serpenti. We have, I don't remember how many Serpenti execution we have. So it's not so common to have all this pillar that has a different design, because from my point of view, it's more important to have a family feeling that is not just an aesthetic family feeling, but it's the way of thinking.
Yes.
So when you see Serpenti, Bulgari, and the Octo, you say, but these are not common in terms of shape. But it's common in terms of proportion, they are common in terms of way of thinking, they are common in terms of audacity.
Yes.
When as a designer you are able to create a feeling, a family feeling, an identity that is not just an aesthetic, but is more depth. You talk about the brand DNA, you talk about the proportions, the way to play with materials, the audacity of some execution, like the two Bogas, for example. You are in a different step because you are not linked anymore in something that is aesthetic, that became old very soon. Because the problem of the decorative elements is that today it's cool, next year it's gold. And you are obliged each time to recreate a decorative elements that is on time. But when you are able to create a statement in terms of proportion, boldness, something that is invisible but you can immediately recognize, this is the next step. Because you don't need anymore to have the logo on the dial. Today, when we have the big collaboration with the very important artists and architects, the first thing we remove the logo from the dial, we remove the indexes, because everybody knows the shape of the Octo. We can remove the logo from a Serpenti, because today everybody knows the shape of Serpenti after more than 70 years that is in our collection.
It is a very strong identifying
this
point.
This is a real
already.
statement.
Yeah.
This is a real statement. But if you make, let me say, a round-shaped watch with a thin bezel, white face, and black alligator strap, if you don't put the logo on top, maybe it's just another round-shaped watch.
It would be more tricky to create that point of differentiation.
So from the beginning, even when we create the Octo, the idea was to showcase our amazing savoir-faire in our facilities, to make the thinnest watch in different categories. And the time when we start to discuss with Guido Terreni, and Guido say, Fabrizio, which kind of watch do you have in mind? Which kind of shape? Because At the time, we already have a lot of shapes. I say must be an octo because nobody can expect that we are able to do it. So the octo at the time was a big thick. It was even a different moment in terms of aesthetics. And when we arrived on the market with the first octo finissimo, that was a manual winding tourbillon in Basel Fair, everybody said, wow, this is a new thing. But it was just 30 pieces. So I received a lot of comments, okay, you are able to make 30 pieces.
Yes, but what
okay.
can you bring it up?
The year two was the minute repeater that changed completely the aesthetic of the octo finissimo. It was
and
the
I would
first
say
watch.
also the perception.
Exactly. The first minute repeater in titanium with just one design, one color, one finishing. And everybody told me, okay, you are able to make other 30 pieces, bravo. When we arrived with the manual, with the automatic movement,
yes,
was not limited. Everybody started to say, we have a new player in watchmaking industry. And we started the journey of the octo finissimo, let me say now, almost 20 years ago.
yes.
And at the beginning, Jean-Christophe was a great supporter of us. And I think that we have the octo finissimo today because Jean-Christophe arrived from a watchmaking industry and said, we have to do this, this, and that. I remember very well the first time that I met. We met the first time in Rome during a meeting, and we showed the drawings of the next watch.
Yes.
So for sure it's going to be the first watch of Jean-Christophe. And I noticed his expression when someone showed to him the drawings.
He's in the front row,
Not
by the
because
way,
he's
so
here. It's the story that I
does he know you're going to tell the story?
I don't know if he tells the story, but it's the story that maybe few people know. So I've seen the expression of Jean-Christophe, and I say, Guido, we're going to have a problem because Jean-Christophe doesn't like it. And Guido told me, no, we're going to make it, we will see. Okay, you're going to make it, I'm going to make some proposals. 1 month later, we met Jean-Christophe. We invite Jean-Christophe in our office in Neuchâtel. Jean-Christophe arrived now in my office. I see a lot of watches around with many, many proposals. It was a very quick tour and say, okay, it's that one. See you next month with the prototype. For us, before, it was, yes, maybe it's this one, you can make a prototype. It was, is this one, and you see you next month with the prototype.
So it was already very immediate, very
No,
firm.
for us was a different way to talk about watches. A lot of pressure, for sure, but it was, let me say, not because before we were not professional, but for sure before we were more a jewel maker that make even timepieces.
And then it became more structured, more direction, more focus.
With an amazing speed. And today, if we have this amazing legacy about the octo, for sure in the manufacturing side and all the people around us, and you talk with me, now I'm here on stage. I'm on stage, but behind me there are 5 designers, very talented designers, there are 500 people that work around the watches. But it was even thanks to a different direction, a different speed, that it was injected in just a few words. And
you think it really gave the development of the octo that kind of energy and vigor?
Yes, for sure.
That was really, giving it its presence when it came out into the market.
It was more in the watchmaking way, let me say.
Yes, which is still important. But after all, we're
it's
talking
still
about
important,
watches.
but it was still free to, okay, you can try even other things. So it was not just a one-way direction. It was very clear, but the most interesting and the most important things was the speed and the time to market.
We talked, I want to bring you back to an earlier point. I love that anecdote, by the way, especially because Mr. Bama is here with us today. But I want to bring you back to an earlier point. We talked about the common points between the different collections. You named like the Serpenti and the Octo and obviously the Bulgari. And we know that you said that these collections all have these points in common that you try to express equally in them. But do you also find that different collections have different design needs, like you would not apply the same process to thinking about the creation of a Serpenti new model at all?
But for sure, each single line has its own identity that start from aluminium, for example, is more than 30 years old watch.
Sorry.
sorry.
Let me rephrase, because maybe I didn't put it in a clear way. But of course, the identity is different. You will be thinking about in different contexts and what it's for. But does the process change when you're designing for a different collection? Because the personality of the watch changes, the identity of the watch changes, its purpose changes, its audience is also not necessarily the same. So is the process always the same? Like, do you shift the process?
No, for me, in my brain, doesn't change. Just the question is different. And who have to use this watch, why this kind of client need this watch. But on design process, if you don't make the right questions, you make a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
Because everybody's creative and everybody could have an idea, but the professional people in creativity is able to turn an idea in a real product, thanks to the help of the other that work with us. But if you don't make the right questions, you make the wrong watches, the wrong product.
Yes, I agree with that so much. The way to achieve the right solutions is always to pose the right questions.
That's why I used to say that the ability to make sketches is not the most interesting talent in a designer. It's just wow, he is able to make sketches like that, it's amazing. But the most important thing is the
way that you think.
The process that you have in your mind. The question that you make, and it's a very philosophical concept. So you see just the product and you see the sketches, but I'll tell you that we talk for days about why we have to make this watch. Who is the client? Which kind of needs has this client? The hidden needs of the market. We try to anticipate the trends. Honestly, I don't follow trends anymore because they are so fast.
Yes.
There are so many at the same time on the market. And if I follow the trends that is today on the market, I'm the last one, and I think it's not interesting for the brand. So it's there are very important architects and artists that are not able to make sketches, but they are able to describe the object with a letter, with the comments, with notes in a very precise way.
I love that, because we're talking really about intention and purpose.
Yes.
And people forget that design, when it's designed for something, the design of something is actually related to intention, it's related to purpose. People think that design is just something that looks nice.
Yeah.
It's not something that looks nice, it's about purpose. And I think you put the spotlight on that really, really well. With these examples that you've just given us, I think we can really, really go to the heart of our discussion today, which is what does it mean to modernize something? There are watches that are produced this year that look like they could have been made in the 1970s. There are watches from the past that still look very contemporary today. So when you look at a watch, what is it that allows you to decide, is this modern, is this not? And then the next question, how do you decide if a watch is appropriate, if it's right for the modernization process? What makes you think? What is modernization? Let's start with that.
For me, this is part of the question. The other part is why a product is correct for a brand or not. How you are able to anticipate and to imagine the evolution of a brand. This is, for me, even the most important things, because when we talk about the next product, and when we talk about, we make a lot of sketches, we make a lot of renderings in our office, and we are full of ideas. Maybe this is one of the biggest problem that we have, because sometimes for us it's difficult to choose. We put on the wall and we say, wow, this is cool. And after one day, sometimes after 1 week, we say, but honestly, this is not Bulgari enough. This is not cool anymore. So you have to be able to take distance. All the drawings are our baby, but you have to be very sharp in the comments. You have to be very, you don't have to say this is beautiful just because you make it and you love the idea. You don't have to be in love with the ideas. Because otherwise you are not able to create something different. And back on your question, how is difficult to say if it's a product and modern or not? This is a matter of taste. This is a matter of experience. We love to make drawings. And when I was at the school, in a certain moment, a teacher behind me takes the paper and say, okay, now it's time to go. It's enough. I discussed about that even this morning. I love to make this example. I'm an Italian. I love to eat pasta. And there is only one precise moment that the pasta is cooked in a perfect way. Or it's too late, or it's too early.
Yes, we're talking about precision. That's why he's in watchmaking,
exactly.
people.
And with the experience, you say, okay, now it's time to go, otherwise it's over-design. And if it's over-designed, it's never modern, because it gets old in 6 months.
Yes.
And if too early, it's not cooked enough. You see that you miss something. But with the experience, you're able to say, to make a modern product, you have to be a little bit in advance.
Yes.
Because when you arrive on the market, if it's already,
Yes.
okay, I know this, maybe it's already late.
You need to anticipate.
You need to anticipate a little bit. Not so much, because otherwise it's so disruptive for the client at the moment. They cannot, no.
Well, yes and no, because like we see Bulgari in the position of someone that shapes the market, not someone that follows the market. And if you create something that's avant-garde, that's a bit in advance, you are directing people to grow in a certain direction. So like I don't see them as a follower; they're a leader. Or
there are two different kinds of modernity: the aesthetic and the concept. The concept must be something projected in the future. You don't know that you need this kind of things, but I'll tell you that you need this kind of things. But if you are too in advance with the concept, too futuristic with the concept, and too futuristic with the shape, the clients say, oh, wow, maybe this is too much. I need 6 months to read the object. So again, it's attention. The Octo Finissimo was something that is why we need a new ultra-thin watches. The ultra-thin watches we know very well. It's something that is a round shape, thin bezel, white face, that you can wear when you go at the La Scala di Milano and after you put in the safe. But the concept was to create something that today doesn't exist. For the first time, a contemporary ultra-thin watches with integrated bracelet, talking about titanium, sun-blasted finishing. So the aesthetic was the aesthetic of a watch that you can recognize, but the concept was far away.
yes.
This is the tension.
I do think that Bulgari have the unique luck to have access to an audience that is actually very adventurous. They are willing to try new things already, more than the average watch brand audience,
Yes, because
perhaps.
we train a lot our client with the jewelry. The jewelry always is, it was in advance.
Yes,
The
so it's like
serpenti,
audacieux,
it's not a common
illusion.
object.
Yes, they
So
dare.
when you have the story with Elisabeth Taylor, with Sophia Loren, with Anna Magnan, the most incredible actresses were so powerful with their serpenti watches, and even in the amazing films, this is the DNA of the brand. So honestly, Sotiglio, I think, was a crazy man. Like we are crazy, because if you are crazy as a designer, but your manager, your boss are not crazy like you, but you don't have a Serpenti to Bogas, you don't have the Ultra with the QR code on top, you don't have a watch with Arabic inscription. Again, I remember very well, Fabrizio, we have a big barrel on the Octo Finissimo Ultra. We need the finishing. I say, guys, the finishing getting gold in 6 months. We need something that break the rules and say, look at me, I'm the first watch. We're gonna put a QR code on the barrel. So you use the Octo Finissimo Ultra became a gate between a universe that you know because you can touch and the universe that you cannot touch. And when I discuss I'm discussing exactly like that with you, and I'm discussing like that with Jean-Christophe or with Antoine at the time. Jean-Christophe said, wow, this is super cool. Imagine, honestly, I don't know what is the QR code, it's not the brand, you don't have the Ultra. No, until the end. The Ultra was an amazing concept. What is this? The big barrel, the QR code, you make the mobile phone on top and you open the metaverse world. This is amazing.
Yes.
This is our DNA, this is our brand, this is our attitude to create things that is
And it's amazing that everyone at the brand, from the tops to like the people in your team to the audience, like really shares this kind of energy and that this vibe, and you can trust that, when you come with an idea, they are vibrating on the same kind of frequency as you, and they will get it, they'll understand it. Let's talk a bit about the values that can really give the watch a modern aspect, because you were talking about there's the design, there's the aesthetic side, there's the visual side, and there's also the conceptual side. And if you put on your product creation hat for a second, the values that bring modernity to a watch, would you say that there are things like better quality standards, better consumer utility, better reliability, so that you have longer service intervals, things like that? I know it's not very sexy to talk about, but these are things that, in my opinion, make a watch suitable for the modern world, for the contemporary world of watchmaking. that, you know, it's more adapted to the clients, it's more adapted to the consumer.
It's not sexy, but this is one of the most important part of the design process. Because, for example, when I was in the automotive industry, you can design beautiful things, but immediately after, someone behind you say, okay, but I'm not able to adjust. I need the space to put my hands and the tools to adjust. It's exactly the same. I used to talk with the manager of the after-sales service, because the watches are made by human being, with the man, with the hands. So nobody's perfect, and we don't need the perfect products. So if you have to change and replace something, you need the right space. You need the right way to disassembling a bracelet. You need the right way to change some components. So it's not just aesthetic, the design process. Designer is a very strange, weird person that have to be able to put together different métiers, different works.
So to you, is that what modernity means? Not just updating the look, but really making it suitable, making it something that fits into the life of people today?
But for sure, for the Serpenti to Bogas, for example, we revised 3 times the way that you have to assembling the head with the bracelet. Serpenti Seduttori with the piccolissimo movement, today we are able to take the movement out from the case, and if you need to repair or if you need to make something, you completely can remove the movement, the piccolissimo movement from the case. Was very important for us, like it was in Serpenti with in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s. Now this is, look, I don't know, it's, yes, but it's common. For us, it was not common. The head and the body of the snake come from the same suppliers in Italy, our manufacturing site.
Okay. To
Before
homogenize
before the piccolissimo movement, the head come from Switzerland and the body come from Italy. The head was a watch, the body was a piece of jewelry. Different technology,
I see.
different way to play with enamel, different way to play with diamonds, back and forth several times to have the same finishing. So when you say we remove the movement from the body of the snake and from the head of the snake, this is modernity, this is a more efficiency. The snake comes from one supplier and the movement comes from another.
And do you feel that this is something that can be perceived when you have the model in your hand, that it's coming from different places versus now?
Even if it's not perceived for the final client, for me was a big problem, and even for the people around the product is a big problem, because you have to match different technology and different supplier. They has different sensibility, a different way to work. So even if the client doesn't know, for us, that we want to make the most perfect product that's possible for our clients, it was a long discussion, and we make a lot of implementation to improve overall the quality of the product. So to think the product in a different way, this is modernity. This is not something that comes from the past.
Yes. I'm going to put you on a spot for a minute, something I apologize in advance, but you mentioned earlier, and it's been sticking in my mind, that sometimes you and your team, you would reject designs on the basis that it is not Bulgari enough. What does that mean? Do you have a rubric to tell you something's Bulgari, this is not Bulgari? Because it sounds like you feel it, it's intuitive. But there must be some kind of...
Still today for me it's difficult to reply to this question, because it's a very unique blend. It's the boldness of the surface, it's the audacity of the idea at the beginning, is the finishing, is the proportion of the indexes, the color of the dial. All these kind of things together make a watch that is a product that is Bulgari enough or not.
Would you be able to give us an example of something that is not Bulgari, an example, and the relevant counter example?
The Octo Finissimo is a Bulgari enough. The Serpenti is Bulgari enough. For sure, the products that we made are Bulgari enough. But there are some products, for example, that are less Bulgari because maybe there are too, I don't know, how can I say, different proportion, different shapes. They are not brave enough. They are not different enough.
They need to be more extravagant. They need to be more expressive.
Yeah, Bulgari is a very eclectic brand.
Yes.
And we love to mix and match different style like just a few brands are able to do. I'll tell you honestly, I joined the company in 2001. I think that I know the brand very well.
Yeah, a bit.
And in a certain moment, I met Gianni Bulgari. And Gianni Bulgari, I met him in his house in Rome, his home. And he opened the door, and I see his house. I say, now I know the brand. It was super eclectic, a lot of things put together with an amazing style. Or you are crazy, or you have an amazing taste. This is the very subtle line between an eclectic project and an over-designed project.
But is it something that you can describe,
It's a
or is it
matter
something you need to
of,
learn
No,
just by experience?
it's something that you have in your fingers. If you have it, you have it.
Exactly.
If you don't have it, you can learn a lot. You can
It's
be
not something
cultivated.
it's not something you can put into a manual, and then when they come into
There
the
is
Bulgari
no
design
rules,
team, and they
unfortunately, and this is the secret. Sometimes they, how can you make an iconic product? Unfortunately, I don't know, because there are no rules. Just the
Yes.
market can tell you if your product is iconic. Everybody talk about the iconicity of the Octo Finissimo. Thank you so much for everybody. I'm not able to tell you if it's iconic, because it's for me, it's something that I already have in my hand. For me, this watch is super cool, but I'm already thinking what's going on in the next edition of
Yes.
Dubai Watch Week. My challenge, the question, tell me your favorite product. I can always say for the rest of my life the next one.
Yes.
Because it's a part of the challenge. It's a
Yes.
part to find a different way to talk about the brand with combine together the amazing movement that we have today in Les Sentiers, the métier d'art that we start to use in Seigneur-Léger, the creativity, the heritage as a jewel maker, the roots that we have in Rome, because it's not just an Italian jewel maker. Rome and Italy, I was born in Naples, grew up in Rome, and I tell you that each city of Italy is an amazing place, but each one has its own rules. No, you talk about Florence, you talk about Rome, you talk about Naples, Milano, Torino. Each one is unique. So we are not Italian jewel maker. We come from Rome. The sense of aesthetics, the light of the city, the boldness of the Colosseum, the boldness of the column of the Pantheon has an impact.
It's very specific.
When you go around in Rome, you wake up and you see around you, wow, this is this outdoor museum. All this kind of thing has an impact. That's why when I say Italian design is amazing, but when you talk about design in Milan, when you talk about design in Rome, it's totally different. The boldness is different.
Yes.
The way of thinking is different.
Exuberance.
So, yes. That's why when I say it's not Bulgari enough, maybe because the product, the idea that we have, it's not fulfill about all these kind of things. And we have the chef. The chef is one of the most incredible designers because it's not just a dish. You have to be able to have the right timing for the cooking with the right ingredient, with the right proportion. So in the university school, we often talk about the chef like an example that everybody knows. So you have on your desk, on your table, all the ingredients. And there are millions of ways to put together. But each time the flavor, the blend is different. Sometimes it's too salty, sometimes too sweet. But this is the real savoir-faire of a chef. The designer is like that. Why now this kind of thing is interesting in this part of the world is not interesting on the other part of the world? The brand, the trends are so fast.
Yes.
The tastes are changing so fast.
So if I can maybe suggest something to you and maybe turn the question around a different way, maybe describing what it means for something to be Bulgari, maybe it's not about the characteristics or the properties that it has, but it's more about the effect that it gives.
And it's something that is consistent with the brand.
Yes. So it can change. All these
Yes.
characteristics can change. You can't name one thing that is, okay, this makes it Bulgari, that makes it
Yes.
Bulgari, this makes it not Bulgari.
Exactly.
But the effect that it can finally give
Yes,
to the
during
person.
our discussion with the Julian from the marketing team, but even with Jean-Christophe, we talk about the products, and often they say, I don't know, maybe it's not Bulgari enough, this is not for the future, this is not, we are sure that we want to go in that direction, because I have in mind the manufacturing side, the movement, the evolution of the movement, the evolution of aesthetic line, the evolution of Serpenti, the evolution of Octo, the evolution of Bulgari. It's like a chef with all the ingredients on the table. And we are lucky because we have a lot of ingredients. Our archive is full of iconic signs. There are some other brands that are less lucky than us that are just a few shapes or few things, because they have a different attitude, different DNA.
It's a different approach.
But honestly, our ingredients are wow. Often when I have time to go in Rome to visit the archive and to talk with the people who manage the archive, each time there is a surprise. Each time that you know that we make these things 50 years ago, it's wow, this is amazing.
And it's a discovery.
It's a discover. But you have to pay attention because you have to manage in a very careful way, because otherwise it became a jail and you design always the same thing. This is my obsession.
Yes.
The archive and the heritage is an opportunity to create something that doesn't exist 100% with the consistency of the brand. But it's not open the book,
yes.
We're going to make the edition of that one, we're going to make a new edition. We
Yes.
receive a lot of requests to make exactly the same Serpenti that was wearing by Elizabeth Taylor in Cleopatra.
But you can't repeat previous
Exactly,
chapters of the story.
exactly.
You have to continue the next
Exactly.
chapter. You have to
Bulgari
write
is
new
a
parts of the
contemporary
story.
brand. It's not a vintage look brand. We have a different story.
Yes, and there will be always certain repeated themes or thematics, but it's not about rewriting a previous chapter. It's about continuing the overall story.
But we are always open-minded to see maybe over there are an opportunity. That could be, there is an opportunity that could be interesting for the brand to see the brand in a different way. I love to see things upside down. What's going on when you see things in a different way? It's always a surprise.
That. And it's always something that you didn't expect or something that you didn't
But
even
it's
consider.
it's
tricky.
It's tricky and took a lot of energies because the brain is always working.
Fabrizio,
working.
If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Maybe you are right.
No, it's absolutely the case. We're about 12 minutes left to our session. I will be opening the floor to questions from the audience, but I'm just going to start thinking about the questions already if you have any. But just one last question for the main session. We want to talk specifically about the learning process because our topic today, just coming back to the main question, mentions art and risk. And all artists take creative risks. But for the director of product creation at a brand like Bulgari, maybe the risk calculation is a bit different. So what are the risks that come with the process of modernizing a design? You talked about maybe audience reaction, how something will be received, how something will be perceived. But is there one experience that really stands out in particular in your career? So for example, are there risks that you would take today that maybe you wouldn't have taken 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or the other way around?
I don't know. I make a lot of mistakes during my career, and now I can tell you that it was
yes, tell us.
A lot of learning around. The first time, one of the first meetings that I met with Mr. Paolo Bulgari, I start to sell to him an idea that was an amazing piece of jewelry with a lot of technical contents. And Mr. Paolo Bulgari and Fabrizio, the jewelry is a different things.
Yeah, calm
it's
down.
An emotion, comes from the stones, comes from the color. We don't need to have these features, this feature, because at the end, it's just the pleasure to wear and very unique stones that come from an amazing heritage and maybe is a one of a kind. First lesson. After few years, I decided to make the perfect Serpenti of my life. So I put together all the comments. I'm sorry, but it's not possible to adjust with the perfect size. I'm sorry, but it's not possible to make this kind of thing. So I put all the elements on the paper. And I say, okay, this done, done. We presented the watch, and I remember like yesterday, I put all my effort to explain the project. And the lady in front of me, the project is not anymore in our lineup. Like, say, Fabrizio, the product, the watch is perfect, but unfortunately, it's not sexy at all.
Because it was too constrained. You had too many factors.
It was. This is done. This is done. This is done. The watch has a good success.
It was too perfect.
It was too perfect. I say, look at when I wear the Serpenti to Bogas on the wrist. The gesture is part of the experience. And I was shocked by this kind of things. She was completely right. The watch has a good success for a certain period. It was not imagined to have forever in our assortment. But this was the second lesson. So you have to make mistakes. You have to be curious. You have to make mistakes. And you have to play the game. It's a part of the game. If you don't take the risk, and there is no market research that can tell you that you need a watch like a serpenti tubogas. I say serpenti finissimo. This could be an interesting thing.
I love it. He's getting started.
And
Never
there is
stop.
no market research that can tell you that you need a watch like a serpenti tubogas, and there is no market research that can tell you that you need a watch like a finissimo, octo finissimo. So this is we play with this kind of things every day, with this tension.
Yes, I know it's often a marketing line that you hear from watch brands that, we create objects of dreams, but in a sense that is what it is. You
Yes.
create objects that will provoke dreams or dreaming or imagination in others. At this point, I would like to ask if anyone in the audience has any questions for Fabrizio. There we go. Let's start with, the gentleman in the first
Ciao,
row, and then
James.
maybe the second row. Go on, James. There's someone with the, here you go.
It's going to be a tricky question.
Fabrizio, a couple of years ago, I interviewed you here, and we sat down to start the interview. I put my recorder on the desk.
James, closer, please.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
please.
We had an interview 2 years ago. As we started the interview, I put my recorder on the desk, and you looked at it and went, oh. And we started talking about the recorder. We talked about form and function and how things work. And it occurred to me that you have an eye for detail and functionality and design for everything, not just watches. So can I ask you, what are the 3 or 4 things in your everyday life that you use that you think are perfectly designed?
It's impossible to
love
reply. Thank you very much. I love cameras, as you know. I love ballpoint pen, fountain pens. We talk about the Sony player for music a few months ago. I love objects. I'm looking for perfection every moment. It's impossible for me to tell you I love this object because it's perfect. I love the object with a story, no matter which kind of price, brand. Honestly, I love a G-Shock like an Octo Finissimo or like I don't know, an Ellipse. Each single object that has a different story that was important for just a small details is a step ahead, and for me is interesting and is important. But I'm a little bit obsessed by details, finishing, push button, graphical elements, proportion and shapes. This is maybe one of my obsession. I'm sorry, but I'm not able to reply to your questions.
I'd like to add to that point because I think it's difficult to fall in love with something that's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Because we as humans are imperfect, and something that's perfect.
Maybe
is,
we are more attracted by the
Yes.
by the imperfection that is a perfect object could be very cold.
Yes. Your favorite moments of someone that you love
Yeah.
are never the moments when they're being perfect. Sorry, I
Thank you.
believe so James, does that satisfy your question? I know it's not answered, but does that satisfy you? Next, we have a gentleman in the second row who raised his hand earlier. Is the microphone somewhere? Yes.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Hi, Fabrizio. About 5 minutes ago, you also mentioned about the change. So my question is specifically about Octo Finissimo and the collaboration between designer and watchmaker. As we know, the Octo Finissimo from the original tourbillon, mini repeater, manual winding, and the automatic. It has been well over a decade, okay? And most of, if not all, of the Octo Finissimos, all kinds of complications, based on the caliber 138 movement. It's beautiful, it's terrific. But do you foresee that in the near future, well, or maybe in the future, that you are going to have a new movement, the next step for the Octo Finissimo, not just for the function, but also for the aesthetics? It's not, as I mentioned, it's not
sure.
that it's not beautiful, but
Yeah.
just in case, or make, as you say, make it even more sexy. The movement.
Yeah, you know, the sex is a matter of taste, and it's a difficult topic. But for sure, we are working hard on a brand new movement. You're gonna see something very interesting. Maybe we can talk about that in the next future. next year. For us, never stop to make the most perfect and the most beautiful Octo Finissimo possible ever. So it's an ongoing process, and like it's an ongoing process on the most incredible Serpenti. But I think that we could talk about that in the next future. Yeah.
We have to keep a few secrets after all. I believe Gary has a question, and then I believe also a lady near the back.
Well, thanks for these great insights, first of all, and lovely interviewing as always. The MB&F by Bulgari Serpenti, what was the best part of that collaboration process, the worst part, and is it a Serpenti?
Sorry, is?
Is it a Serpenti?
But you know, for me it's difficult to say that with MB&F is a collaboration. With Max is just a never-ending talk about beautiful things and objects. We never made a deal. The Serpenti with MB&F was just born because in a certain moment I had an idea and I sent a message to him. And
First, the conversation which first started here at Dubai Watch Week, by the way.
Yes, Dubai Watch Week is a very interesting place because there are a lot of opportunity to talk about collaboration and crazy project with a lot of people of the industry. But honestly, I don't know if it's the Serpenti. For me, it's already in the past. I don't want to say that it's a vintage product, but we start with talking about with Max about the Serpenti. Now it's 4 years ago. And as a designer life, 4 years is something that is... Now I design the watch in a totally different way because the designer is like, no, you change your mindset according with the experience that you have, the taste change. Now I'm never satisfied. I see the product, say, Max, have you seen these details? That's a pity that we didn't go straight to the point. Why? But you know that in a certain moment, after the first year of development, Max called me and said, Fabrizio, I think I have the feeling that you are not happy. What's going on?
Typical Max, direct.
I say, Max, no, it's not that I'm not happy. So we make a lot of sketches, we start to work on 3D file, and I think that the proportion of the 3D file, unfortunately, some details. Okay, give me 5 minutes. After 10 minutes, you call me, you are perfectly right, we start from scratch. We are not happy about the proportion and the shapes. This is not common. But just to tell you, how can we go in depth with the obsession for perfection.
I love that. That's a different example of how you guys can collaborate. It's not a collaboration in that sense.
No.
It's really, you could describe it as an externalization of your conversation.
Yes. I was in Mexico City for the CR. I've seen Carlos maybe over there. I was walking on the street because due to the jet lag, it was impossible to sleep. And I received a message on WhatsApp from Max. Fabrizio, we have some issue with this detail. I send you some picture. Tell me what do you think and which one you prefer. 1, 2, 3. Max, I prefer the C version. Okay, thank you. That's enough.
Direct, as always. Thanks for your question, Gary. I believe we have time for one last one for the lady.
My question was more specifically about the Gen Z customer base.
Sorry, if you could speak a bit closer to the mic.
Can you hear me now better? Okay. So my question was more related to the Gen Z customer base. Back in 2021, we saw how they really pushed the luxury market to focus on sustainability, which is something that we haven't really witnessed before. And so I'm wondering, since they will really become the prominent customer base for your brand, what has been the most challenging aspect in capturing that demographic and then also maintaining them on the long term?
Honestly, it's difficult to reply on my side. It's still a very important part for the group, not just for me. The environment is one of the most important things for the group, not just for the brand. As I said before, I have to work 3, 4, 5 years in advance. For me, the generation is something that is too fast. And if I design something for the generations that now is my target, when the watch will be on the market, is over. So I have to be able to anticipate the needs of the generation that is interesting for me now, they're gonna change the taste. So at the beginning, just to give you a little example, and I think that we have Russian time, I think. It was the big buzz around the connected watches. The connected watches was the big topic a few years ago. In a certain moment, we discovered that the young generation use the connected watches. When they grow up, they start to appreciate the watch of their father or their grandfather. Oh, now I love the mechanical pieces. So they have the connected watches on the wrist and the mechanical one on the others. The things that we learned, there is an evolution in terms of taste, power spending, life. So when you take just one part of the game, it's so dangerous. The generation that today is interesting for me, my question is which kind of watch they're gonna wear in 5 years. I used to stay just on the corner on the street and look at the people that pass by. These gentlemen, which kind of watch would be wear? These ladies, we have a watch with these ladies or not? The immediately after is, this is the right customer for the client, for the brand, or not? You have to be able to choose, because otherwise you start to make a lot of things and the client cannot recognize anymore the brand. That's why you have to be consistent. Otherwise it's so, you don't have any more attention, and it's something that is so impossible to touch and feel.
Yes. Perhaps it's not so much a question of generation, but really of mindset.
Yes.
And on that note, I want to thank everyone for being in the room with us today. Thank you to Fabrizio. Thank you so much to
Thank
Dubai
you so
Watch
much.
Week.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you
for your
everyone.
time.
Please feel free to stop by the Bulgari stand, which is just just across over there,
Yes,
to
please.
check out the products and maybe chat with Fabrizio a little more.